Hello and salutations to all. Welcome to Climb the Pocket's YouTube channel in conjunction with Forward Pass Thingy audio content. I'm your host, as always, Jonders, and with me for our first foray into off-season content here at Climb the Pocket, it's Steve Catalano. Steve, how the heck are you, buddy?
As you can imagine, I'm feeling pretty good today.
Don't even start with me, Steve. Don't even start.
We won't get there yet. We will get there, but I will just have to mention that my Packers did beat your Seahawks, and obviously you are sore and I'm flying high. And we'll get to my game pick later, but maybe I won't be flying high for too long as the Packers get to play the 49ers, who destroyed them earlier in the year. So, I'm living high while I can, so I'm enjoying this win and whatnot, but man, what a good time for some NFL football. These games have been amazing, so I'm just
Good
happy to
time
be
for
here
you,
talking with you.
maybe.
You're right. It's definitely tough to watch your team lose, but we had some good games this weekend, and I'm ready to talk about some more games coming up, and then obviously the Super Bowl is coming up, so that's always a really good time. So, I'm having a good time. I'm chilling.
It's almost over. I can't even stand it.
I know,
we're gonna do another 9 season of the off season. All right, let's start recapping these games. I don't have much to say about this first one. The Vikings headed west to the 49ers. The 49ers found gold in the end zone multiple times. The 49ers and Kirk Cousins ran out of that magic that they found in New Orleans. I don't really think I have much to say. Dalvin Cook was a disappointment. A little surprising that Stefanski, the offensive coordinator, got work as the Browns head coach. I don't know what to really say about this. Jimmy G, I'm not a doubter, but I'm not a believer yet. But I'll be ready to become a believer next weekend, maybe. What do you have to say about this game?
Well, I mean, when watching this game, it was a good game. And this is kind of the story of at least the first 3 games of this weekend. This was a great game at first. It was kind of a 10-7 game, then 10-14. Going to the half, it seemed to be pretty close. But then, I mean, the 49ers, in their forte, they came in with that running game. And, I mean, Tevin Coleman out of nowhere. I mean, throughout the fantasy season, Tevin Coleman became very unreliable. And Raheem Mostert, actually, was the guy, out of Purdue and whatnot. He's just been, the guy, the surfer dude. And I was pretty surprised that Tevin Coleman had 100 yards and a couple touchdowns, and he seemed to be the feature back. So maybe that was their plan all along, was to kind of give him some rest and get him ready for the playoffs, because he's the most veteran guy on this team as far as running back goes. And they still rushed for like 180 yards, so they did their thing against the Vikings, especially in the second half, and they put that game away. I was not impressed with either of the quarterbacks' play or anything like that. Like you said, it was kind of a boring game. I mean, to believe that the Vikings only rushed the ball 10 times, and that's their thing. I mean, how does that sit with you? I mean, I understand they were down and whatnot, but Dalvin Cook caught so many passes and whatnot. I don't know.
It sits with me just fine, but I know it doesn't sit with Mike Zimmer well. I mean, we've seen him fire offensive coordinators before because they didn't run the ball enough. This time, the offensive coordinator left of his own volition to go take the Browns job. But I mean, I don't even know. Mike Zimmer still wants to run the ball like it's the 1980s or something. We'll see what kind of offensive coordinator he gets in there. Take Brian Schottenheimer. He wants to run the ball. Take him. Dear Lord.
Yeah, I mean, the very surprising thing was, like, George Kittle. I mean, he barely had a game. They didn't need him. I mean, he's such a good blocker as a tight end and whatnot. They just literally did their thing. They ran the ball, and they won. And, as a Packers fan, I found myself rooting for the Vikings, not rooting for, but preferring to play them in the next round, because obviously the 49ers gave us a big whooping earlier on in the season, and I don't want to face that again. And more especially, I want to be at home, in the cold at Lambeau. They seem to have that advantage against the Seahawks, even though they made it a close game. And anytime the Seahawks go to Lambeau, and obviously when the Packers go to the Seahawks Stadium, it's just, I think they were undefeated up to that point at home, and that obviously that trend is still going. So I wanted to play at home. That's why I thought it was huge that the 49ers beat the Seahawks in the last game of the season. I thought that would have been just gigantic to get the number 1 seed and be able to get home field all the way through. So, but you got to deal with what you get, and hopefully we can get some luck this weekend. But as far as this game goes, I'm not surprised the 49ers came out with a victory. I think the Minnesota Vikings kind of they show some flash against the the Saints and whatnot, knocking them out, and that was cool because I didn't want to play the Saints either as a Packers fan. But I think
all right, we're going out of order. I'm calling an audible. We're gonna go to the Seahawks Packers game.
We're going.
You brought up the game where the Seahawks lost to the 49ers by an inch. I'll tell you what,
God.
The Packers won against the Seahawks by a phantom inch. Jimmy Graham was well short. And what's with this additional footage that the refs saw? We've seen additional footage, but the play still stands. What are you looking at?
Wait, first of all, you would have to be, as an NFL fan, if they came back and said we found additional footage and now it's short, maybe you'd be happy, but
I love to play the heel as an NFL fan.
I heard that, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? What is that?" I was pissed at that, even though it was in the Packers' favor. I was like, "What are you talking about? You can't just look again and it's like, oh, we changed our mind. You already delivered."
What would have happened with the 70,000 people in Lambeau, all of 70,000 Green Bay residents? What would have happened if they would have came back against the team with the Fail Mary? Also, what would have happened?
I mean, honestly, if they didn't get the first down there, and I obviously this is a talking point. The Packers probably would have ran the ball. Maybe we would have got it. Maybe we wouldn't have. And the Seahawks would have had a very little amount of time to get down the field to score a touchdown. But obviously anything's possible, especially in the playoffs. And Russell Wilson, he's magic with the ball in his hand, so anything could have happened. But obviously controversial play. I don't even know where the ref spotted that. I know there's views of the line, and maybe the yellow line wasn't in the right place.
I saw on Reddit that was like the yellow line was like this, where it was like.
Was it all curved?
Dip. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny. And then obviously I saw the ones where people were drawing the red line, which was lined up with the marker, but I think those drawings were even skewed. They were putting it a yard behind the yellow line, which isn't true. We're talking about a foot here, forward or backward and whatnot. Obviously it was close.
It's a game of inches, Steve.
I didn't see any view really where it showed definitively
his
what
head
happened.
Is on the yellow line, and
we're not talking about the head.
We're talking chest.
Yeah, we're talking. Well, the yellow line was in the wrong. We're not going to go there. Let's talk about the game instead. Obviously, that was a very big.
I got a question for you. Who was the better quarterback in this game and this year, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
This year, I think it was Russell Wilson. I mean, he was definitely.
Now in this game.
Well, hold on. Let me continue with that. Okay. Russell Wilson was an MVP runner for most of the year until Lamar Jackson just hit turbo mode and just went past everyone. Later. Russell Wilson slowed down just a little bit and. Naturally, Lamar's going to be the MVP, but Russell Wilson still had a very great season. In this game, I would say, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. He did what he needed to do to win the game, had a couple touchdown passes, not very high yardage, but he did what he needed to do. He made very clutch passes. Trust me, I was very, very worried about Russell Wilson in the second half when we were letting him just tear us up on the ground, which is actually what I was afraid of the entire game, that was going to happen. So before the game, that's what I did not want happening, was Russell Wilson just scrambling all over us because any other team, the Packers would have had almost 8 sacks in this game, but Russell Wilson's just magic scrambling and whatnot, able to get away. It was very frustrating to watch as a Packers fan, watching our line get pressure like they usually do, and then Russell Wilson scramble away and then maybe get another 10, sometimes 15 yards. Very tough to watch. It'd be really cool to have a player like that on my team, but not gonna argue. We got Rodgers, and he's playing pretty well right now.
That's what our friend Ryan McGinley said to me 3 years ago. That people don't understand the greatness of Russell Wilson until he does it to your team. He said that to me after a Philadelphia Seahawks game a couple of years ago. But yeah. Do we have any final notes on this? Because I think you brought up a good point that they would have gotten to a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo 8 or 9 times. The Smith brothers really need to get going to stand a chance. But we'll do that a little bit later in our preview segment. I want to do these last 2 games pretty fast, unless you have a button you want to put on the Seahawks-Packers game.
No, that's fine. I'm obviously happy with the win and whatnot. I'm excited to see what the Packers can do. I don't have the biggest faith in the next game, but we'll get to that. So let's go ahead and go to the Tennessee-Baltimore game.
Yeah, let's do that. You brought up the MVP, and we think for sure it's going to be Lamar Jackson. Although I think, most valuable player, you can definitely argue that Russell Wilson's more valuable to his team, and Lamar Jackson's a better offensive player. But that's not here or there. The Tennessee Titans are certain they will. Against the Patriots last week, against the Ravens this week, they'll have the opportunity to do against the Chiefs. And if that's a murderer's row, if they can do that 1, 2, 3, that's some impressive stuff right there. So we're going to see what Derrick Henry has to say about this. Mark Vrabel said he would chop off certain parts of his body to win a Super Bowl. I think he might be wanting to walk those comments back a little bit. I would, if I was Vrabel nowadays. What do you think about because my big takeaway from this game was that Vrabel seemed a little bit more ready. The coaching staff seemed a little bit more ready. Lamar Jackson, I don't want the narrative to come out of this game that he's not primetime ready or not playoff ready, but I think that's going to start bubbling up here. And Henry, where are we taking him in fantasy? So any of those questions, and what do you have to say?
We'll start with the game. Obviously, the Titans came and did their thing. I don't think a lot of people had them unless you were trying to bet them to win some money, which was a pretty good bet. I think if it was plus 10 and whatnot to take the Titans, I think that was a pretty good bet because we knew that they're going to continue to use Derrick Henry like they've been using him, rushing him. I predicted 30 times. He hit that mark 30, but being safe 25 plus times. He's just been their guy, in the last 2 games, close to 400 yards rushing, and, he rushes the ball 30 times. That is their go-to. Ryan Tannehill threw for 160 yards in this game combined with the Patriots game, and that just proves that your team is dominating. You're dominating the run game and you're dominating on defense to hold the Ravens' electric offense to 12 points with one touchdown. I know you saw that crazy stat. The Ravens had drives that ended on the Titans 36, their 31, the 4, the 18, the 31, the 15, the 16, and the 21. Now, when you see that, you're like, they had to have scored at least 4 times, maybe 3 touchdowns, a field goal, maybe another one. They scored 12 points on that. Now, a couple of those are where their drives ended and they kicked a field goal or another field goal and scored their touchdown. But they were ending their drives inside of Tennessee territory all day, let alone in field goal range. And to come out with 12 points, to lose by 16, that's a very, very heavy stat to see. So you can tell that Tennessee's defense came to play. Obviously, you mentioned Lamar's experience in the playoffs. Second year in the playoffs, second year in the league. He's obviously got a very bright future. The people who are just questioning his ability and whatnot, I think that's just crazy. Obviously, they're such a good team, and he's the MVP this year. But to question his ability in the playoffs and whatnot, maybe the coaching decisions as far as sitting them for 3 weeks, that kind of thing. But I don't know if you can really, really say anything about Lamar Jackson's ability to win in the playoffs in year 2.
Yeah,
he's about to win the MVP.
I completely agree. And if the Ravens aren't happy with Greg Roman, send him over to Seattle. I would love to see him there. The Tennessee Titans are going to have to pass for more yards next week if they want to be competitive against the Kansas City Chiefs, as was proven last week. After getting off to a 24-0 start, the Texans fall 31-51 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I tweeted, and I'm patting myself on the back here. I tweeted when it was 24-0, hey, the Texans still need to play it's 0-0 because Patrick Mahomes is that dude. Yeah. And Bill O'Brien started pumping the brakes a little bit, going for a field goal instead of going for a first down. And I think, I don't know. I think I was right. Got to play like you're down or the score's even because Patrick Mahomes is that dude, and he proved it once again.
But kind of a talking point. You're up 21-0. You're clearly steamrolling them. Obviously, they're going to come back and they're going to score a good amount of points on you still. You're the Texans. You're up 21-0. I don't see the whole thing of why didn't you go for it. In that moment, I was picturing, maybe they're going to go for it. They're killing it. Might as well. What are you going to risk? But I don't knock them for going for the field goal. You got more points. You're trying to stack on points. Every point matters against this Chiefs team. Now, obviously, in the end, they still lost by 20. So that decision literally meant nothing. Whether they scored a touchdown there or not, if they scored a touchdown there, they would have lost by 16. So
no, because the butterfly effect and the psychology of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and every player of the Chiefs, it's just a different psychological game if they go up another 7 points instead of 3 popoints.
I agree. It was pretty unbelievable to watch that comeback, though. I saw the comeback coming to make it a game. Obviously, you're 24-0 or whatever. The Chiefs are going to come back. They're electric. At least in the second half, they're going to put up multiple touchdowns. But to put up 4 in the second quarter, 3 in 3 minutes.
They were leading by halftime.
Crazy.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Travis Kelce has 2 catches of 15 yards, and out of nowhere he's got 3 touchdowns and 80 yards. Wow. And literally 3 minutes. That's crazy. It obviously shows what this offense can do. I think they're the best offense remaining, obviously, in these playoffs. Tennessee, they've got the run game. The Packers, they're just efficient, and not much there. So I think the Chiefs are the best offense back.
Who has Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien beaten in the playoffs? The Bills this year. They've won 2 games though, right? Who do they win?
I'm not even just going to mention Deshaun Watson. The Houston Texans have been extremely disappointing in the playoffs. Yeah. They're just one of those teams that they get to the playoffs, maybe win a game. If they don't, we're not surprised. It's kind of like the whole AFC South picture. The Colts with Andrew Luck made it to the AFC Championship a few times, but they're just it hasn't been a team that
the Colts made it once
to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, well, with Andrew Luck.
Oh, okay. Well, I know they've been in the playoffs multiple times with him and whatnot, but they're just not a sexy division that you think is going to win it. The Texans are always there, but I don't think anyone's ever choosing them as a favorite. But obviously, Deshaun Watson still has so much time to get better. He's so good. But I think this wasn't really on Watson this game. He had a pretty good game, and obviously the defense just rolled over and whatnot. So not
moving
surprised
forward, can I tell you about something that I've been thinking about?
Sure.
There's a company out there that really wants a certain Super Bowl matchup, and that matchup is a rematch of Super Bowl I. State Farm is looking for the Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl. They have some Super Bowl commercial cooked up, and how great would it be for State Farm to get that dumb agent out there?
Yeah, that would just be gold for the company. I think they already do well because they have two of the biggest names in the biggest sport in America. On a commercial together and separate commercials on their own. And that's pretty crazy. But they'd be coming up with something. I'm wondering if they already got it cooked up. Ready
I'm
to
sure
roll.
they already have it in the can. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, guys, we need you to come down here for one quick afternoon. We got to make this commercial just in case, and you're gonna get all this money just if it happens. And I wouldn't doubt they got it. I think that'd probably be the top Super Bowl commercial out of the Super Bowl, no doubt. Whether it's funny or not, I don't even care if it's funny because I don't think those commercials are very funny. If they go
No, they're not.
humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the games? Do you want to talk about the AFC side or the NFC side first?
Let's talk about the AFC side first.
Okay. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are going against Mike Vrabel and Ryan Tannehill. You're right. Ryan Tannehill needs to throw for at least, I think, what's the mark we want to give him? 200, 250 yards to win this game? Where's the mark that we're setting for him?
Even though the Chiefs have a high-flying passing attack, they did lose to the Titans this year, and Andy Reid is 1-4 against the Titans. Nugget. There's a nugget.
Yeah, that's a nugget.
Exactly.
Battle of the trenches, you'd be getting some yardage right there.
Exactly. But Tennessee's forte is to run the ball. I do think Tannehill needs to throw for more yards, and these receivers need to get more involved. I mean, the leading receiver had 45 yards against the Ravens. And I think that as long as they run the ball and Tannehill throws for like 200, I think they're going to be in this game for sure. I think their defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. They're much better than the Texans. The Texans all year were one of the worst defenses. Flashes, against Jameis Winston and whatnot, but what does that really mean? I think this is going to be a better game than most people think. I do still think the Chiefs come out with a victory, and Andy Reid gets his second win against this team, but I think that it's going to be a lot closer than people think. We should have a pretty good AFC championship for sure.
There was a Monday Night Football game. I think it was 2008. It was the Indianapolis Colts traveling down to Miami. Miami held onto the ball for 45 minutes, or it was like 44 minutes and 59 seconds, and the Colts had the ball for 15 minutes and 1 second. Who do you think won that game?
I don't know.
The Colts won that game. This is what I'm saying. Like, the Tennessee Titans can run the ball all they want, do clock control, ball control, whatever. I don't care. Patrick Mahomes is going to score every time he has the ball. So not only do you need to play takeaway with the ball, you also need to get on the get touchdowns every time. Because Patrick Mahomes can strike, and he can strike fast. We know that with Kelsey, Hill, Watkins. I don't even care.
Anyone, Damian Williams, any of those running backs, anything can happen. These guys are so close. I mean, McCormick can break one off. I mean, it's just what the Titans are like ability to do and run the ball is pretty fun to watch. The games aren't as exciting, but watching King Derrick Henry run the ball is just fantastic. I think in order for the Titans to win this game, they're going to need to win the turnover margin for sure. Like, check that box, and maybe you have a chance. And
maybe
that's. Yeah, exactly. I think that will give them a chance. If they're able to intercept Patrick Mahomes once, maybe come away with a fumble recovery, possibly for a score, I think that's what keeps them in this game. But like you said, Patrick Mahomes can throw for so many yards, and they have so many weapons or not. I don't see the same thing happening to the Titans that happened to the Texans. I don't see them getting out to a big lead, nor do I see them getting steamrolled in the second half, aka the last three quarters. But I think it's going to be a better game. But I do predict the Chiefs come out on top, and they finally get to that Super Bowl.
What if I told you about the 7.5 point spread? Who do you pick then?
So both these games are actually 7.5 point spreads.
I'm taking the Chiefs straight up and against the spread. I don't think this one's going to be close. I think this is
really?
And it's good that this is the early game because I think the second game is going to be closer. So I like that this game is the early game. We can kind of settle in, get our wings going, get our drinks of choice going, and then really be locked into the second game. Because I think the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, I think this is going to be kind of like one of those Hall of Fame real games in 20 years for Patrick Mahomes. Oh, yeah. And I think the Titans should be proud. I think Vrabel should be proud. They need to lock Tannehill down. I think Tannehill and the Titans are going to be a frisky team for the next few years. And maybe they get the pieces right. Maybe they're still in the AFC Championship game next year. But it's Patrick Mahomes. I have so much respect for him. I
know it's so hard to pick the Titans. I want to pick the Titans. I think I would against the spread, but that's a tough choice to pick anything against Patrick Mahomes. If we're doing straight game picks, I told you I'm picking the Chiefs, but Vegas does their job right. This is it. They always make you think with these lines. But I guess I'll take the
Well,
Titans.
I don't think they have the cornerbacks the Titans do. I think maybe the safeties are a little bit better with Bayard and Vaccaro. Yeah. But, man, I don't think Jarrell Casey can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I think Fisher and Schwartz are two great tackles, and they'll be able to swell this Tennessee Titans pass rush. I don't see where the Tennessee Titans have a matchup of victory on defense. I don't see anywhere where the Tennessee Titans defense can stop the Chiefs.
Yeah, a couple balls are going to have to bounce their way, you know.
And I want to see a good play out of Tyrann Mathieu in this AFC Championship game. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for the Kansas City defense and stuff, but to show that they're able to go to the Super Bowl and win on both sides of the ball. So I'll be looking for that too. He's such a fun player to watch.
Let's move on to your team, the Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers. Mm-hmm. Maybe this will be catch 3 after the catch 2 with Terrell Owens. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a Packer fan back then. Remember, I was a Favre guy, and then the Packers broke my heart. Now I hate the Packers. Now I have beast mode stuff. Anyways,
the Seahawks broke my heart. Okay, I don't want to hear it.
Whatever. The Smith brothers are going up against Staley and McGlinchey. You know, Mike Person. What a ridiculous name for a person. Mike Person, right guard, San Francisco 49ers. Ridiculous.
Incredible.
I think Adrian Amos is one of the better safeties in the league and has been really underrated. What do you think? Because I think Blake Martinez kind of hit his peak maybe 2 years ago. I really don't think he's been the same player the last 2 years. Yeah. But the Smith brothers can cause so much havoc up front that it really makes this secondary and these linebackers look a lot better just because they're so elite at the pass rush.
Yeah, obviously the Smith bros, you know, the investment in bringing him into town is just well paid off and whatnot. And you mentioned Blake Martinez being kind of on the downturn of his career, and he really is. He, you know, just a few years ago, he's one of the top defensive players in the league, and you know, he's still a very good leader on our team. When I say our team, the Packers, he's a good leader on the team, and he's a guy that's very important. But when it comes to next year, I'm not really confident the Packers will bring him back because I think he's going to want a certain amount of money that, you know, some team will pay him. I don't know if we will. But the pressure that the Smith brothers are able to get, I like that matchup against Jimmy G. I know they played earlier in the year, but I like that this time. I think the team's got a little more moxie. I think they got a lot more going on. I don't think it's going to be the same game that happened, you know, in Santa Clara.
Who did they lined up on Kittle during the last game? Or was Kittle healthy?
I don't recall if Kittle was healthy, so I can't make
okay.
Who was on him that game. I know that they ran the ball down our throat and they did what they had to do to win that game big and hold Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to 8 points. And that was a tougher game to watch. I got together with a lot of my Packers friends for that game, and it was a rough one. It was a rough one to watch. I drank a lot and watched it in sorrows. So hopefully we don't have that same thing. My expectations are not as high. I thought that was going to be one of the better games this year during the regular season, and it definitely didn't turn out that way. But I think Green Bay is a different team, and I think San Francisco is a different team. I think the way they just beat the Vikings was pretty handily, you know. And but I don't want to say I don't think they're the same team. I think they're the same team, but I think their defense is. People are finding certain holes to attack their defense, and if you can manage the ball, which I think Aaron Rodgers is doing very well, especially against the Seahawks, and just managing the game and hitting on those huge third downs. I mean, the third down completion percentage the Packers had that last game on those third and longs, like 5 or 6 of them. Those are so important to winning the game, and that's the stuff you have to do to beat really good teams like the Seahawks and the 49ers.
I'm going to cut you off here. The Seahawks have Jadeveon Clowney. The 49ers have Joey Bosa, Buckner, Armstead, D. Ford. Do you think this offensive line of the Packers can win against this San Francisco defensive line?
I mean, I think they have the best defensive line in the league. They've been playing like it for sure. I don't know if the Packers can stop them from wreaking havoc. I think it's going to come down to Aaron Rodgers and doing what he does best and getting rid of the ball quick and finding open receivers. Obviously, that comes down to the Packers' talent. Every week is a newsflash. Who do the Packers have? The Packers just have to play well. All their players have to play well and limit the mistakes. That line's going to bring pressure, and we have to be efficient on offense. And that's just really comes down to it. And maybe that'll be enough to keep you close in the game. Their defense is like I said, going to wreak havoc no matter what. Bosa's going to get there, and Rodgers is going to be scrambling. He's not the same Rodgers he was years ago. So he needs to his passing needs to be on precision. He needs to hit the crossing routes. Jimmy Graham needs to have the same kind of game he just had against the Seahawks. No drops. Hit the big catches for 20 yards for the first down and whatnot. And I think those are key things that they're going to have to repeat in this game. To beat the Seahawks and obviously the Seahawks have kind of a better chance against the 49ers just being a divisional foe. They know a little more about the team.
Here are my two predictions. Prediction
go
number
ahead.
1: Richard Sherman is targeted 0 times. Okay. Aaron Rodgers does not look at Richard Sherman at any point in the game. I will take the Green Bay Packers to cover.
Mm-hmm.
The San Francisco 49ers to make it to the Super Bowl.
I actually listened to a radio interview today. Aaron Rodgers was doing his radio cycle. He was on NFL radio and then ESPN radio. Just happened to be in the car when he was talking. And they did ask him that about Richard Sherman. They're like, "You're going to throw over there?" And he said, obviously if someone's open, what else are you going to say to that? I think if Devontae Adams is getting guarded by Richard Sherman, there's obviously no way that he can't look that way. I think
but I don't think Richard Sherman moves. I think he's going to be on the right side. And they've done this before with the Packers and the Seahawks when Richard Sherman was a member of the 12s that, they purposely they'll put Allison maybe on Richard Sherman the whole time and just kind of take Allison out of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know, like if we had to put like an over-under on how many times will Richard Sherman be targeted, you would literally bet like the under 1/2?
Yeah, I would.
You would? Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what that line would be at, like if Vegas was able to give us that bet, if it was like 1.5 or 1 or 5 or 0.5. I'd take the over on that just because they're gonna have to throw the ball to win. I mean, I could see this game being a very ground heavy game as long as both teams are efficient on the ground. I mean, obviously the 49ers are going to want them to run the ball. The Packers are susceptible against the run at certain times, and that's what they're going to do.
I just think they're going to try to get Adams on Witherspoon, and that's going to be what they're trying to do. That has to be their game plan going in. He's got to have matchup.
He's got to have a similar game that he just had. Adams was electric in that game against the Seahawks. He was just perfect. I mean, such a great game for him, and the Packers have such limited weapons. If he doesn't have that kind of game, I mean, if the Packers don't do all those things perfect, like Adams have that kind of good of a game, I think they're going to come up short, and they're not going to be close. So
I'm hearing a lot, but I'm not hearing a pick. So can we get a pick in?
I'll take the 49ers minus 7.5.
Oh, you're taking them to cover, not only to win.
Yep.
I've never picked against the Seahawks. I don't like this.
I know. Dude, trust me. You know where I stand. It's just tough watching after that first one, and I think the 49ers are a better team than the Seahawks. And I know the Seahawks have beat the 49ers, but the Seahawks were, they're injury plagued and whatnot, missing Carson and Penny and other guys, and the 49ers are rolling, and I think they're a better team. So
make sure you subscribe to Climb the Pocket on YouTube. Subscribe to Forward Pass Thinking on iTunes. Follow Steve at Steve 2.0. The O, I'm sure it's on the screen. Just read it.
It is.
And
it is.
At Jonders FPT on Twitter. That's everything you should need to know. All right. Till next time. Get home safe, everybody. Bye.